So in this example, we're given the vector P, which is 6, 0, 30 degrees. Now, because the vector is given in this format where there's an angle, you know that this format is the magnitude and direction format, as opposed to the other one where you're given a vector and the first component is the x component and the second component is the y component. Here we're being given the magnitude and direction of the vector. Fine. So in part 1 we're asked to sketch the vector. So if you draw some sort of sketch the Cartesian coordinate system. Say this is point 0, I'll use a different color. I know that my vector is in the direction 0, 30 degrees. So I know it makes an angle of 30 degrees. If you move in the clockwise direction from the, call it the northern line, and it has a magnitude of 6. So the length of this line representing the vector will be 6 units. So this angle is 30 degrees. It means that this angle is 60 degrees. The vector is of, length 6. Also have to put the arrow in the direction the vector is pointing in. So you know it's a vector pointing towards the northeast. Anyway, part 2 asks us to express P in terms of its Cartesian component and call that vector P prime. So we need to express this vector in terms of its x and y component. So I'm just going to draw the vector. This is the vector, P, which has a length of 6 units. It can be broken down into its x and y components. We just form a right angle triangle. So this would be the x component of the vector, and this would be the y component. I'll just use a different color. So now, this line is horizontal, which is equivalent to this line, and we know that the vector makes a 60-degree angle with the horizontal. So this angle is 60 degrees. This is a right angle, so this is 90 degrees, and this is 30. No need to write that. So the x component is this vector here. I'll show it in red. This is the x component of the vector P. I'm going to call it Px. And this is the y component of the vector. I'll call it the vector P. I'll call it Py. So the vector here, this horizontal vector, is the x component of P, but I'm calling the magnitude of this vector Px, and I'm calling the magnitude of the other vector Py. Px is going to be 6 cos 60 degrees, and Py is going to be 6 sine 60 degrees. Now, how did I work that out? I just simply used SOHCAHTOA, because if you use SOHCAHTOA, you know that cos 60 is equal to the adjacent side, so the length, I'm calling Px, over the hypotenuse, which is 6. So you can see that Px is 6 cos 60 degrees. So using the sine from SOHCAHTOA, you can work out that Py is 6 sine 60 degrees. So you should try that. Now that we know the x component and the y component of our vector P, we're told to rewrite P in terms of its Cartesian component, but call it P prime. So it means that P prime is going to be Px, Py, because it's a vector. So 6 cos 60 degrees is the horizontal component, and 6 sine 60 degrees is the vertical component, or the y component. X component is y component. Horizontal component vertical component. Part 3 asks us to determine the magnitude of the vector. Now, we've already been told that P has a magnitude of 6 units, so we don't need to do any more work. You could decide to go through the long process, which wouldn't be the best decision in this case, of working out the magnitude of the vector by taking the square of its horizontal component and adding that to the square of the vertical component, and then finding the square root of the sum. If you do that, you should also get 6. So try that with these values just to practice finding the magnitude. So that's the magnitude of vector P, which is the same thing as magnitude of vector P prime because they are the same. Try that, you'll get 6 as well. Part 4 asks us to determine 2 times P prime. So the vector P prime is being multiplied by the scalar 2. So 2P prime. This way. Two P prime is equal to 2 times 6 cos 60 degrees and 6 sine 60 degrees. Now I can factorize. I can bring the 6 out, or I can take a step backwards. So you can ignore this for now. I don't want to cross it out. You can take a step back and I'll say, well, I can see that P prime is the same thing as 6 times cos 60 degrees sine 60 degrees. So 2P prime is 2 times this. 2 times 6 so 2P prime is 2 times 6, which is 12, into cos 60 degrees sine 60 degrees. You can stop here.